Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk. Bei mir Garth Braun, Blackbird Energy. Und ich muss gleich vorweg sagen, in Conflict of Interest, es ist, also ich bin Aktionär bei Blackbird und Blackbird ist meine größte Aktienposition. Warum ist es meine größte Aktienposition? Weil die Company einfach im letzten 12 Monate explodiert ist. Wir haben eine extreme gute Performance gehabt und jeder ist eigentlich jetzt vorne, umso mehr freut es mich natürlich, Gas da zu haben, ihm zu gratulieren, dass er uns die Performance gebracht hat, erstens. Und zweitens, macht es jetzt noch Sinn, in Blackbird zu investieren, beziehungsweise dabei zu bleiben. Garth, I said this in my introduction.
Ich verstehe alles.
But I must say a few things also for my English subscriber. I have a conflict of interest. It's my largest share position, and the reason why it was my largest share position is you bring us a really great performance last year. Thank you for this.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joe.
Now, coming up to the question, was it? Was this now the performance? We make a great money on it, or is it only the beginning of the story?
What a great, can I just jump in?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
This is an open discussion.
what I'll say is this, is that's such a great question, Joe. And really, I didn't prep you for that, is that I actually did a presentation this weekend where I said, what have we done and are we done? And it was basically a discussion of what's been achieved in the last 2-3 years and where are we going? Are we happy with where we are? Right now we've moved our company's valuation from 50 million to about a 300 million market cap. And are we happy with that? And the point that I make is, and actually you're on the slide, what's happened over the last 2 to 3 years is we've validated our lands, we've been able to obtain licenses, we've built infrastructure, substantial more infrastructure is coming to the corridor. We've proven up that the liquid-rich Montney is here in 4 intervals and potentially 6. And what I want to say to the shareholders is, it is just the beginning.
I saw also the presentation, and it was a really funny presentation. You involved the people into your presentation too. It was a great presentation, and there was also a few slides, and we go through this.
Yes.
You say it's right at beginning, and maybe I should translate a little bit in the German. Was gesagt hat, warum es eigentlich auch erst der Beginn ist. In der Vergangenheit hat er eigentlich nur das gemacht, was er eigentlich gesagt hat. Also damals war es zum Beispiel noch nicht sicher, ist es wirklich ein Liquid-Rich Corridor oder nicht. Das ist mittlerweile approved. Wie viele Lizenzen gibt es dort? Kann man das überhaupt lizenzieren? Wie viele Bohrlöcher gibt es dort? Und bis jetzt war das eigentlich ja alles noch, sage ich mal, Anfangsarbeiten. Jetzt kommt erst richtig das Geld rein, und ich kann mich erinnern, I remember me a few months ago, a few interviews ago, that I say, is the Montney that what permanent for the US?
Yeah.
And you say, yeah, exactly. And there was one slide in, and that was really you coming up with unbelievable IRRs.
Yes, internal rate of returns.
Yes, and this was not your numbers, this was Encana's numbers.
Yeah, Encana, just as reference, is the number one gas producer in Canada, potentially North America, and a premier operator, an industry leader, a company that we've shared data with, we respect tremendously. This is a company I have huge respect for. Their team is exceptional. They have done so many things in regards to how to drill and complete wells in the Montney, and also how to produce them to obtain exceptional results. They published data in both May and October where they said that their upper Montney wells are now coming on at about 139% internal rate of return before tax, paying back in 8.6 months. And they actually said that this volatile oil window, they mapped it from their lands all the way down into Blackbird's lands. And at that time, they indicated there could be 40 to 47 sections of lands that Blackbird has that is liquid rich. We believe all of our lands are covered by liquid rich, but we appreciate the work that in Canada is done.
And you show also some maps how active is the area.
And by the way, Joel, I will get you this PowerPoint so you can post that up as well.
Okay, perfect. I will. Well, please send me it. I put it on my list. I will link it to them.
Yes.
You show also that a lot of activities coming into the market, especially in your area, and this is only a small corridor. And you told me also the difference to being permanent. Permanent is more a basin, really a basin. This is more a small corridor.
Well, the Montney is a formation and it's a basin as well, but the liquid-rich component of the Montney is actually about 18 to 24 miles wide. So the corridor that's getting all the focus and being focused are the wells that produce very liquid-rich condensate. So this is that high API, high-gravity oil, which has tremendous demand in Canada. We need about 500,000 barrels a day for the oil sands, and we can only produce in Canada about 175 right now.
And this was absolutely new for me. We know Canada produce, and they are big client sitting south of you, US, and take all of this. But I don't realize that you ship up from the south of US to your country condensate that what you need for your heavy oil or for your oil sands, that you can convert this, that you can ship it through a pipeline, not ship it, send it through pipelines down south.
Exactly. We actually rail it up.
Yeah.
From the Eagle Ford, which is in Texas. We bring a majority of our condensate up.
Yeah.
So it actually has to be shipped up, mixed with our heavy oil. Now, the only other area that we produce it really is the Montney, and the Duvernay a little bit, but the Montney. And our Alberta government actually has incentivized Montney producers to drill more aggressively for it. They've incentivized us by giving us a major royalty holiday.
Yeah, and this is what I must translate a little bit into German. Also, was Sie hier produzieren, ist ein Kondensat. Das ist ein sehr viskoses Produkt, das Sie mit dem Ölsand, der ja sehr zäh ist, mischen, damit Sie also ein geschmeidiges Produkt bekommen, das Sie auch über Pipeline und dass Sie es überhaupt verschiffen können. Weil sonst ist es ein Problem, dass das so zäh ist, dass man das nicht versenden kann. So, und deswegen brauchen Sie das Kondensat. Und das Kondensat produzieren Sie nicht selber oder nur einen Teil davon in Kanada, also das müssen Sie von teuer von USA raufschiffen mit dem Zug nach Kanada, um das zu mischen. Also das war für mich total neu. Und was halt das Interessante ist am Mountain Play ist, dass genau die dort dieses Kondensat produzieren, was sie brauchen, auch für den Oilsand. Deswegen ist es so, dass das Kondensat sehr teuer ist, währenddessen zum Beispiel West Canadian Select mit einem Discount zum WTI gehandelt wird. Und das ist eigentlich das ganz Spannende dran. Deswegen ist das Government, das Alberta Government, hergegangen und gibt sogar Incentives, damit man mehr Geld in diesen Bereich investiert, damit man nicht so viele Kondensat aus den USA importieren muss, damit man ihr Heavy Oil, ihr Ölsand nach unten dann wieder exportieren kann. Also das ist eine ganz interessante und witzige Situation.
And one other thing you might want to talk about. Today was a momentous day because the Keystone Pipeline, which has been fully approved by Canada to ship our heavier oil down to the Gulf Coast, had been stopped by President Obama, just got approved by President Trump. So he passed the order today. This means that when that's constructed, more oil from Canada is going into the US. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which comes right to Vancouver here, is also bringing in heavy oil, mixed with diluent again, right into Vancouver to be shipped. Mm-hmm. So Canada has decided we need to get our oil out.
Yeah.
That makes even greater demand for Montney producers to drill and find and produce condensate.
Absolutely. Heute hat der neue Präsident, amerikanische Präsident, die Keystone XL Pipeline bestätigt. Das ist ja jetzt Jahre mehr oder weniger von der Obama-Regierung verhindert worden. Er hat das jetzt durchgesetzt und approved, und wenn das natürlich gebaut wird, die dient vor allem, um das ganze Öl von den Oil Sands runterzubringen zu den Raffinerien, die im Süden von Amerika sitzen. So, das heißt, um dieses Jahr Ganze auch zu versenden können, brauchen sie noch mehr Kondensat, und das sieht man auch in die Erwartungshaltung, wie viel Kondensat das man braucht, dass das deutlich zulegen wird. Aber, und jetzt kommen wir zu einem anderen Punkt, also das ist Kondensat, extrem wichtig und teuer im Verhältnis zum normalen Öl. But now I come to another point, and you recommend this a little bit in the first 2-3 sentences. I hope I find the right presentation or slide here. We talk normally about Upper Montney, Middle Montney, but now coming to Lower Montney. And Apache or drills a hole in the Lower Montney, and maybe I must describe a little bit. These are all formations in in the underground, and so that's mean when you find a new formation, what is oil or condensate rich, that's mean you have more drill location what you can drill and frack and get out the oil. So it's mean that your land package get a greater value. It's for sure when you have only one formation, you can only produce oil of one formation. When you have two formation, you get more oil. And when you have maybe 4 or 6 formation, then you have really the jackpot.
And maybe I would say it also in German, but I would say these are intervals. It is the same formation. What happened is that we've taken 4 intervals that we saw clearly that we could complete in, and now it looks like there could be 6.
Okay.
So that's what I would say. It's the same formation, the Montney, which we control and have all the rights to, but it's now that lower portion is now demonstrating to be extremely, and I will say extremely, liquid rich. We'll talk about the well, but there's a whole new value metric that's coming in. I expect analysts to start talking about it and putting value into companies now. Ooh, this whole new layer is going to add value. It's like finding another layer of gold in a gold mine.
Yeah.
And what happens? The reserves go up.
Yeah. That's absolutely a good relation to explain it. Also wichtig ist einmal wirklich zu verstehen, also es ist ja nicht so, dass dort nur eine Schicht gibt, die ölführend ist, sondern nein, da gibt es mehrere Schichten, die Öl führen, und bis jetzt ist das halt noch nicht in die Kalkulation reingeflossen. Natürlich muss man das auch separat bohren, natürlich muss man das auch separat fracken, aber man kann das alles von derselben Infrastruktur aus machen, und das spart natürlich extrem viele Kosten, weil man ja sowieso schon vor Ort ist und schon alles in place hat. Und von daher ist es extrem wichtig, dass diese Lower Montney Formation auch jetzt bestätigt wird, dass dort tatsächlich auch Öl ist und das nicht nur wenig, sondern sehr viel ist und dass das auch hochwirtschaftlich ist. And the Apache well, it was coming up with 2,000 barrels or something like that.
Hey, let's go to it's the third slide in here, and I'll just flick for it for you, right here.
It looks like you know this presentation better than I.
I probably should, but here's the incredible thing. Now, this well, they tested the 9 to 23, and this is a unique event. That Apache, first off, is a very, very significant oil and gas company all over the world.
Yeah.
Very, very seldom would they ever announce what we call an initial production test. Now, this was an initial production test, not a long-term production flowing event, but they came out and they said this Lower Montney test came on at 10.6 million feet of gas and 2,000 barrels of liquids, condensate. That well pays back in under probably 4 months if it were to perform that on a production level. This was a game changer for everybody in the corridor.
Absolutely, and when you take it compared to a Middle Montney, also from Apache, was 2.2 million cubic feet and 565 barrels. So that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference. So, also allein dieses Bohrloch zeigt eigentlich, wie wichtig diese Lower Montney Formation, die man bis jetzt eigentlich noch gar nicht in die Kalkulationen drinnen gehabt hat, ist, um das zu bestätigen, wie ölreich diese Formation sein kann. Also
and I think one of the things we want to point out, I don't know if our viewers can see it if I hold that up, but this whole other interval that we're talking about that Apache has identified represents at least a third of the Montney resource below us. And we know by having looked at over 2,400 well logs that Lower Montney is very well delineated. We've actually mapped it here through our presentation from the Encana lands to the Blackbird lands all the way down to Apache. The formation looks to be liquid rich all the way through our lands.
Yeah.
It still needs to be tested. It needs to be, we need to test it, drill in it, complete in it, and see it. We can't promise results, but the expectation is the resource should be there.
Yeah. Coming to another point, and I would in the beginning of my interview, I would start with them, and then in the last few months you build up a lot of infrastructure, and you say always in the beginning of the year you will start with the production. So we are now end of January, so how does it look like?
Well, the infrastructure is completely built. We're tied in, and I'm very proud to say we're probably starting to flow molecules this week. So everything's on track. We were able to build this infrastructure on budget, and this is an infrastructure that I think 3 years ago would have cost me $40 to $50 million to build and complete. We brought in at around $16, $17 million, so exceptional achievement.
Why you can do it so cheap?
Well, the downturn in the oil market, we did what's called a counter-cyclical investment. When companies were laying off, and unfortunately in Calgary, we've lost about 100,000 jobs because of the oil downturn. A lot of companies that were in the manufacturing side, because the Montney's not the only driver. There's a lot of other assets that were being maintained, but at $40 oil, they were completely non-profitable. So we went out and started to negotiate with companies and said, you've got spare capacity, you're laying off people. If we contract with you, can we get an exceptional price? And that's how we did it. We did it both with our construction of our separators, condensate stabilizers, our vapor recovery units, our flare stacks, even with our engineering. We cut tremendous deals because when money was tight, we came in with capital and we got great value. So that's a counter-cyclical investment, and I think your investors are aware that's what I like to do to give maximum capital efficiency for Blackbird.
Meine Frage ist über die Infrastruktur gegangen. Wir haben ja in den letzten Monaten, wenn wir sich die Pressemeldungen angeschaut haben oder auch gewusst haben, er baut jetzt die Infrastruktur, damit er auch diese ganze Bohrlöcher, die er gebohrt hat, auch anschließen kann, bearbeiten kann und dann also verarbeiten kann und das dann mehr oder weniger sein Gas und Öl auch verkaufen kann. Und er hat das Ganze gebaut und er hat es zu einem extrem günstigen Preis gemacht, also gut 16 Millionen, währenddessen früher das ist 40 Millionen gekostet. Und ich habe gefragt, woher hat er denn das überhaupt geschafft, dass er so billig das machen hat können. Und er hat gerade gesagt, dass in Calgary ungefähr im letzten Jahr 100.000 Jobs verloren gegangen sind. Weil der Montney-Play ist nicht nur der einzige Play, sondern da gibt es ja viele andere auch Plays dort und die waren alle bei $40 nicht wirtschaftlich. So, das heißt, er ist dann nachher zu den Firmen hingegangen und sagt, wenn ich dir jetzt den Auftrag gebe, kriege ich einen großen Preisnachlass. Und natürlich haben die gesagt, ja okay, bevor wir die Leute rausschmeißen, weil die dann wieder, wenn der Markt läuft, wieder zurückzubringen, ist wirklich schwierig, kriegst einen schönen Preisnachlass und dadurch hat er die Preise bekommen, die er jetzt eigentlich hat. Und das Wichtigste ist, es ist ja alles fertig gebaut, es ist auch alles mehr oder weniger von den Konzessionen da und es soll diese Woche noch losgehen mit der Produktion. Also werden wir sehen, bin gespannt, was da los ist.
And you need to repeat, diese Woche. This is incredible.
Ja, diese Woche.
Ja.
Also diese Woche, die Woche vom 24. Jänner. Now I come to another company or portion of a company you buy 10% of stage. And in the beginning I was saying, okay, why you bought a company about the mid completion? Okay, it's good to know the technology better and better understanding helps you also to drill maybe your well and you get a cheaper price maybe for a completion. So it makes all sense. But really, what's the driver? The driver to buy 10% of a completion company?
Well, number one, innovation is driving costs down in the oil and gas sector. Mm-hmm. And the U.S. is actually driving more innovation than Canadians. Stage is a Canadian company, developed both in the U.S. and Canada. We develop the company, we create the product in Lloydminster, which is northern Alberta, but we're now shipping it all over the world. Mm-hmm. The driver was to bring innovation and bring major cost reduction to Blackbird, and also ultimately allow me to deliver greater completions and graduate my estimated ultimate recovery of oil and gas from the formation. Mm-hmm. The whole driver was to give Blackbird competitive advantage. Mm-hmm. So that when I come in, I can buy the sleeves and the collets at cost plus a minor admin fee, but more importantly, to start to put substantially greater tonnage or profit into the formation and get higher utility out of our wellbore. So I think it's interesting. I did a presentation today where I talked about it. People are looking at, we've now reduced our well costs from 10 million to about 5.5 to 6 million. And people are looking at this going, this is incredible. This is going to improve your NPV. And I said, you're missing the point. This completion system has dramatically saved us time operating, but more importantly, we're putting in more tonnage. And our own reserve engineers are saying with this greater tonnage, you're probably going to, and we're going to say probably, we haven't proven it yet until we flow the wells, but graduate the estimated ultimate recovery higher, so that's going to make your NPV or net present value of the wells even greater. That's why it's in Blackbird. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of oil and gas companies out there with a completion system that they own that is revolutionizing, and as some of the major oil companies out of the U.S. call it, the holy grail of completions, we have. And what I can tell you is we now have 18 contracts. We rolled this out 6 months ago. We've done 3 wells in Blackbird, a 4th coming up. It's all been completely successful. We're now rolling it out through multiple formations in the United States, into China, soon to be Europe. So we're having tremendous success.
And there is a really good slide on slide 14 of your presentation, where you showed the difference of the completion on the fracking side, and you see the difference, and that's a really nice done slide that people understand better the what's
absolutely
happening.
Yeah, and that slide actually clearly will demonstrate the likelihood of getting greater recovery from the Montney.
Yeah, then everybody is clear. Am Anfang hat sich jeder mal ein bisschen gefragt, was will denn Blackbird mit einer Beteiligung bei einer Completion-Firma? Zuerst hat man sich gedacht, nachdem der Großteil der Firma, und das kann ich glaube ich sagen, oder das weiß man, dass auch Garth bei dieser Firma sehr massiv investiert ist, beziehungsweise auch hoffentlich das brennt jetzt nicht bei uns, sondern draußen, aber das ist ein anderer Punkt.
Fire truck.
Yeah, fire truck. So I said to him, hopefully it's not burning in our house.
Nein.
Also das Wichtige ist, was will er mit so einer Completion-Firma dann? Braucht er jetzt Geld, damit er die ein bisschen finanziert, oder ist das wirklich gut? Aber mittlerweile hat er gesagt, seit 6 Monaten, wo sie den Rollout gemacht haben, sie nicht nur 3 Bohrlöcher und ein 4. kommt gleich bei Blackbird gemacht, sondern sie haben auch mittlerweile 18 Kontrakte mit anderen weltweit tätigen Firmen gemacht. Natürlich in den USA, aber auch in China, bald auch in Zukunft in Europa. Und diesen Slide den finde ich wirklich großartig, weil der zeigt genau, was macht denn dieses System. Und dieses System ist nicht nur dazu da, dass sie die Zeit verkürzt, was natürlich extrem wichtig ist, oder die Kosten runterbringt, das ist auch natürlich wichtig, aber, und er hat das auch jetzt angesprochen, sondern es erhöht auch den Raum, der damit gewonnen werden kann, damit man dass man das Öl aus dieser Formation gewinnen kann. Und das ist noch viel wichtiger, als wie dass man die Kosten senkt. Und natürlich ist es wichtig, dass die Zeit gesenkt wird. Aber das ist eigentlich der Knackpunkt dran, dass man mit den einmal Completion, also einmal Frecken das Ganze, gegen einen höheren Return bekommt, als wie wenn man das 2-, 3-mal oder 4-mal machen muss bei einer alten Technologie. Und das ist eigentlich der wichtige Punkt. Und er hat auch we talk a little bit in our previous discussion that when you bought in to this company, the market cap of the company was around 30 million. You paid 3 million.
No. Actually, we hired KPMG to value it.
Yeah.
They looked at competitive technology, what our forecasted revenue was, and they said, Garth, we can issue a report that the company's worth 65 to 85 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to my shareholder, my main shareholder and myself were the big shareholders, and I said, Sean, Blackbird can afford to give $3 million to Stage. So I'd like to value the company at 30 million. And we looked at it and said, well, we're both shareholders in Blackbird. We want Blackbird to do well. We want Stage to do well. Okay. So it was substantially lower than the valuation of where KPMG put it. So we bought in on a valuation of 30 million, although we had supporting documentation for the board of directors of Blackbird that we felt the value of the asset was substantially.
But this only a few months ago, so 4, 5, 6 months ago.
In November, so it's only 2 months ago.
Oh, it's only 2 months ago. But the announcement to invest was a little bit earlier, or?
We had to meet the conditions precedent, which were multiple successful wells had to be done to confirm the technology before we closed. So the benefit was Blackbird entered into an agreement in August.
Yeah,
and then we had all this time to look at all these wells that were being completed in the Permian, the Eagle Ford, Blackbird wells, and we said, ooh, this technology is great. We get to buy in. So the agreement was done back in August. So the value of the company rolling out was appreciating, but the price was set.
Yeah, but you make this deal when the company has no really proof of concept, I would say. There was no drills out.
Not really. I'll share. We had tested the system well over 100 times on surface. We'd already run it in our own well, which was a water disposal well. We ran 5 sleeves in. They worked absolutely perfect. And at that time, I brought it forward to my board and said, I have the ability to acquire 10%. And in actual fact, one of our shareholders came forward and said, we want to buy it. We want the 10%. And he said, no, it's not available to you. Actually, I had a couple shareholders say it. I said, the only company that's going to be able to own this is Blackbird.
Yeah, but is it so you buy this 10% in a half-proof concept? It was not approved by oil. So, but you say, okay, when you're coming up with a few successful oil well, then we do the deal with
then we close
the deal.
Then we close
about 10% for 3 million. But is there any indication how? What's the market cap now? What's the value of the company is now?
Well, Stage is a private company.
Yeah, it's a private company.
So what I can tell you is since we closed, we now have sold it into 18 different wellbore different companies, 18 different wells. Okay, a lot of these contracts are actually multiple contracts that are substantially beyond that. So the valuation of Stage on achieving a significant profitable year, I can tell you that in the first quarter we fully expect it to be it's already a profitable company. So is the valuation 30 million, 65, 85? No, I think it's substantially more because the concept is so proven and the cost savings per wellbore and the intensity we're completing, we've moved from a proof of concept to a full rollout of the system. And I can tell you this, that we have industry players that are on the server side that want to actually roll our system out with themselves. Mm-hmm. So give you concept, I think the value is appreciated substantially. I will wait for Stage to start announcing its quarterlies. That'll happen this year, and Blackbird will start to be able to discuss that. But I would say that we've had a tremendous appreciation of value with this investment.
Mm-hmm. Also am Anfang haben wir Sie ja gefragt, was macht er mit 10% Anteil an einer Completion-Firma? Und man ist schon klar, es ist gut, wenn man die Zugang zu dieser Technologie hat. Man spart sich damit natürlich auch die Kosten. Aber für mich war jetzt die Frage, kann man jetzt schon irgendwie sagen, welchen Wert das die Firma jetzt hat? Ich meine, er ist mit 30 Millionen reingegangen. Was ich nicht gewusst habe, ist, dass er den Deal ja im August geclosed hat, aber er Zeit gehabt hat, den Deal zu closen, wenn erst das tatsächlich dann erfolgreich umgesetzt worden ist, und deswegen haben sie erst den Deal im November geclosed, obwohl dort ja eigentlich die Company schon in einem ganz anderen Stadium war. Vorher war es, sagen wir mal, Proof of Concept mit einem Wasserloch geprüft, und jetzt hat man dann eigentlich schon mehrere Bohrlöcher, und mittlerweile gibt es 18 Firmen, die dieses System einsetzen, und das sind Multi-Kontrakte, die natürlich dort gesagt haben, das ist nicht einmalig. Und er sagt ja selber, erst im ersten Quartal gehen es davon aus schon, dass sie schon profitabel sind, und er will, dass die Company natürlich, obwohl sie privat ist, quartalsmäßig auch ihre Ergebnisse liefern und dass Blackbird darüber sprechen kann, und dass der Anteil von Blackbird, die sie 3 Millionen bezahlt haben, was im Prinzip nichts ist, schon einen deutlichen Zugewinn gehabt haben. Also das ist eigentlich der Point.
Now, I think one other thing. We've used the system 3 times. And we're about to roll out our 4th system in our next well that we just finished drilling. In the first 3 wells, we've saved more than the 3 million we invested.
Okay.
Understand that.
Yeah.
The savings for using the system and putting in double the proppant on a pinpoint basis versus the previous NCS system we used. Not that NCS was a very, very good system, but it cost us more. Plug and perf cost us more. Using this system, we've put greater intensity completions in, and it's actually reduced our time on surface operating. We've saved substantial money. So therefore, we feel that just on operating cost savings, we've probably paid for our investment already.
Er hat einen guten Punkt. Also er glaubt, dass die 3 Millionen, die sie eigentlich bei diesen 3, und jetzt kommt das 4. Bohrloch dran, dass sie diese 3 Millionen, die sie dort investiert haben, eigentlich schon längst an Kosten wieder eingespart haben von diesem ganzen Konzept. Garth, now I think we come to the most important slide, I must say. And please forgive me, there was also an interesting point on your presentation, but I will not really go in recommend this too much. But I don't know this. You are really a social company, so you do a lot of work also for the area there, and puts a lot of trees in there. So maybe you can say a few words about this. This is not normal. Or I hear the first time by an oil company that they plant a lot of trees.
Well, number one is I'm from where my oil company operates, Grand Prairie, Alberta. And I love Canada. I grew up hunting and fishing in this area and enjoying the environment. And I said, I want to, every time I develop my company further forward and we do something, I want to plant trees. And I said, it's not going to be an offset from what I take down. So far, in all my operations, I've probably removed 500 trees. Now, these were mature trees, but to date, we've planted over 51,000 trees. These are 100-year commitment trees in an area that's actually replanting forested areas that were devastated near riverbanks, planting up. So, and this is not for carbon credit. Mm-hmm. Where do we get the money is that when I do a raise or I bring contractors in to do work, I ask them, will you contribute towards this program? So when we did financial raise, sometimes companies go and spend a whole pile of money doing a celebratory party. I don't do any of that. We don't do any of that. Mm-hmm. We basically take the money and we spend it on planting trees. And part of it is that it's a method of us acknowledging our responsibility to give back to the society, both in Grand Prairie, in Canada, and globally. Hmm. The other thing is the way that we operate. I don't believe that oil companies are subsurface companies. We operate in communities. Mm-hmm. So we have our own speed limits. We interact with the community. I very much respect them. What we do imposes upon them. So therefore we try to mitigate it. part of my tree planting program is to tell people I respect the environment. We reduce our speed limits to tell people when we drive by your property, we don't want to speed. If you speed, and our speed limit is 20 kilometers slower than the communities. We have our own guys out there with radar guns watching. You speed, you get a $500 ticket. We give that money to a local charity. Mm-hmm. You speed twice, you're fired. Mm-hmm. And we fired somebody. I'm very serious about it. So it's a statement. We operate, we're guests in the community. We own the subsurface rights, but we appreciate the people on the surface. And on top of that is, I will continue to respect the environment on how we operate and achieve development of our resource.
Mhm. Also, es ist wirklich unüblich, dass Firmen und gerade Ölfirmen auch Pflanzen, also neue Bäume setzen. Sie haben bis jetzt 51.000 Bäume gepflanzt. Um das besser zu vergleichen, sie haben bis jetzt 500 Bäume ungefähr abgeholzt, um ihre Bohrungen durchführen zu können. Also, und das ist schon ein deutlicher Unterschied. Aber er hat auch noch, also Blackbird geht deutlich darüber hinaus. Also sie haben zum Beispiel ihre eigene Speedlimits. Das heißt, sie fahren ungefähr 20 km langsamer, als das in dieser Gegend üblich ist. Es ist, vor allem muss man natürlich sagen, er wohnt dort in der Gegend. Das ist sein Hometown. Und dadurch versucht er natürlich oder will er natürlich auch mit den Gemeinden und mit den Einwohnern dort natürlich so gut wie möglich auszukommen. Und das ist extrem wichtig. Ihnen gehören zwar diese Bodenrechte, also die Erzrechte, die darunter liegen, aber es ist ganz wichtig, dass man mit den Leuten, die an der Oberfläche natürlich wohnen, sehr gut auskommt. Garth, now we're coming, and this is a little bit long interview, but we are coming now to the most important questions. All the questions in the beginning was nice and funny and all this stuff, but coming to real money. First is, and this is on slide 23, and I put the presentation after on my video, or under my video, and this is clear the way to growth. So this is, I think, one of the plans for this year, transition to production. This is happened this week.
Yes.
Then some additional work on this point, so it's all way to growth, but what this really means in value. And then you have a really nice chart here on page 24. This is this page, looks like here. You believe really that we are sitting here and we can go up to here in a really, I would say, short period of time?
We're in that critical transition where we go to production. This production that we're committing to is really a production that allows us to evaluate the formation. Once we've looked at the formations in the wells, we're about to graduate to a much higher level. And
yeah, please get me not a little bit, have a little bit fear, but bring us from this point to this point was around 400-500% for us. This was not a bad deal, you know.
Yeah.
So, but when I see this thing and we go much higher,
yeah.
Brings me a little bit to, can this really happen?
Yeah, you're actually seeing it because I just finished drilling a well that's a step out to the east. It's a middle Montney well, and it's a continued delineation. A successful well there pulled back in probably creates another 300 well locations for me. A move across north of the Wapiti, a well there creates substantial drilling inventory. At this time, the value achievement, both with industry leaders drilling right beside me, Blackbird, and also are committing to more substantial takeaway and sour processing this year, brings reality to where this asset, now it may be in Blackbird or Blackbird transitions into another company, but what I'm talking about, the asset has ability to grow in value substantially because we're not at proof of concept anymore. We're into full rollout. Mm. And the full rollout is actually where you achieve the biggest and most significant value. Mm-hmm. So right now people are looking at, oh, you're going to put 4 wells on production. We're not looking at 4 wells. We're looking to try to get 1,000 wells valued up.
How many drill locations you have?
Well, by different calcs, we could be between 680 to up to 1,000 well locations.
Okay. And this upper, Lower Montney well from Apache change something? This?
That'll add a whole other layer, possibly one or two more intervals there, but we do not include that in yet. That's something that we would look to do.
Okay.
That's so this is this is the value move.
Yeah.
You know, I think that a lot of people, as we go on production, we start to cash flow. And that cash flow facilitates. As we increase our production and take away commitments, it increases our cash flow and accelerates our drilling. As we drill, we'll step out. Now, we're not on a structure. This is a formation, and we've mapped it. Mm-hmm. So therefore, we're very confident what we have across our acreage, and so therefore, we'll just continue to delineate, de-risk, and now start to develop.
And this brings me to page 25 of your presentation. And you showed this also on the show on the weekend. You recommend some companies in the past. They have a market cap about the same size what Blackbird have now, and they turn it to a multi-billion-dollar company. So, for example, 400 market cap to 9 billion, 300 million market cap to 8 billion.
And by the way, that chart that I created before is modeled partially on what these companies have done.
Okay.
So therefore, one of them I have no hesitation in mentioning is 7th Generation, run by Pat Carlson, absolutely brilliant CEO, Passion, right near Grand Prairie to the south of us. What he's done in regards to drilling, infrastructure, completions, takeaway, all of these things, they've done an incredible job. Here's a fellow that in 2008 kicked off a company with 400 million, built an asset base, and now has turned it into a $9 billion company, focused 100% on the Montney, okay, to the south of us. So that model of achievement, demonstration of delineation, development has built this massive value. The path for Blackbird, we have a very liquid-rich asset. We have unique capacity to have a completion technology sitting in us that gives us competitive advantage. And we have a CEO, by the way, that has tremendous access to capital. Okay? So, like Pat, who had same, and Pat's somebody I just completely look up to, another industry leader who is improving the way we drill and complete wells in the Montney. I probably chase, and I'll never get to his capacity, but he's driven. Just an exceptional man.
Garth, why no other company coming and buy you?
Well, I can't comment on that. What I'll say is at the beginning of this year, I went out and bought a pair of running shoes so I could work even harder and move faster. The push for Blackbird is to continue to build the value. Buyout offers don't come because you put a for sale sign on. Buyout offers come because the asset is so exceptional, people have to come in and achieve it. They have to acquire it. Okay? The other circumstance is someone's gone and put so much debt on that it's in trouble and someone needs to bail it out. Well, Blackbird doesn't have any debt. Blackbird has tremendous access to capital. We've got a unique asset. And so therefore, I'm going to continue to build it. But I will say this. I am a CEO that's not that worried about my salary, okay? I'm a CEO that is a shareholder, that loves his company, and I don't see someone coming along and acquiring it as the end of Blackbird. I look at it that I'm handing the asset off to somebody else, and I probably will be a shareholder to somebody else and let them take it. What I can say is I have a great sense of where I think this asset's going to be worth, and it's multiples from where we are now. So this asset has tremendous value.
Then, hopefully, great future.
Yeah. I want to say also is that I want to thank you, Joe. These are some of the most in-depth interviews I've done. I appreciate tremendously the effort, the energy, the time we prep to do this kind of a quality interview, the amount of communication we have back and forth. And I want to thank you. Thank you for being a shareholder.
You.
I know you know one thing. At the show, when people came up and talked to me, and I go to that show and I sit at that booth and I talk to everybody. It doesn't matter whether Blackbird was a billion-dollar company or a multi-billion-dollar company. I'd be there. Now we're a $300 million company, and I'm sitting there. And I will tell you something. I want to always thank my shareholders. Thank them for their support because you're a facilitator of me being able to drive the asset forward. You allow me to value up, reduce my capital cost, and achieve great things. So every time I meet a shareholder, I want to thank them. Thank you.
Yeah,
and I want to thank my
you.
German. I want to thank my German and Austrian investors as well, and my European investors very much. It is through your support that I am able to achieve these things. And I will say this, I'm only starting. I'm only getting ready to start. We're not done. We're just getting ready to go forward stronger.
And I hope it.
Yes.
Ja, jetzt nochmal kurze Zusammenfassung. Schauen Sie auf Seite 25 mal die Präsentation an, also 23, 24, 25. Es klingt ja schon ein bisschen unglaublich. Wir haben jetzt eine 400% Performance hinter uns in den letzten 12 Monaten. Aber das soll erst der Beginn sein, sozusagen. Und wenn man das sich anschaut, was es teilweise andere Company gemacht haben in der Region, die von einer 300, 400 Millionen Marktkapitalisierung zu einer 7, 8, 9 Milliarden schweren Marktkapitalisierung gegangen sind. Und er hat eine Übernahme ja nicht ausgeschlossen. Er hat gesagt, ja, ich übergebe das möglicherweise das Projekt einer anderen Firma, einer größeren Firma, die vielleicht das noch schneller umsetzen kann. Und er ist dort auch möglicherweise dann Aktionär. Ist egal, weil er weiß, was dieses Projekt am Wert ist. Und mittlerweile, glaube ich, zweifelt auch keiner mehr daran, dass dieses Projekt auch diesen Wert hat. Vor 2 Jahren hat jeder nur gesagt, ja okay, gut, probieren Sie halt einmal dort ein bisschen was und probieren hier und der. Mittlerweile ist jetzt weit über den Proof of Concept drüber hinausgegangen. Und was halt wirklich das Schöne ist, sie fangen jetzt an zur Produktion, das heißt zu produzieren. Es ist jetzt einfach nur mehr eine Development Story. Sie müssen das jetzt exekutieren. Und dort sieht er den meisten Hebelwirkung auf den Aktionärspreis drauf. Und was noch gar nicht reingerechnet worden ist, das ist auch einmal der Wert der Completion-Firma. Zweitens einmal, dass mit den anderen Formationen, Lower Montney zum Beispiel, noch deutlich mehr Drill-Locations dazukommen. Er hat euch jetzt selber gesagt, ja, zwischen 680 und 1000 Bohrlöcher können Sie jetzt bohren. Da ist aber das Lower Montney nicht dazugezählt. Das heißt, wenn andere Firmen, andere Formationen auch noch bestätigen, erhöht das nur den Drill-Inventar, was sie möglicherweise haben. Und damit steigt der Wert des Unternehmens erst richtig an. So eine Chance, und wir waren wirklich am Anfang dabei, hat man nicht oft. Und ich kann mir nicht wirklich, mir fallen jetzt eigentlich nur 2 Firmen ein, die in den letzten 15 Jahren, wo wir in einem ähnlichen Stadion waren und wo wir ähnlich früh dabei waren. Das war First Majestic und das war Osisco. Osisco, denken Sie zurück, die haben wir damals das erste Mal empfohlen bei 18 Cent, nach dem Share Split war das 9 Cent, verkauft waren dann, glaube ich, bei 10, 12 und 14 Dollar war das hoch. Das ist eine ähnliche Story, wo waren wir natürlich ähnlich früh dabei, aber wir sind jetzt erst mittendrin in der Execution. Ja, das war's von mir, Blackbird Energy, Garth Braun, Jänner 2017 und tschüss und baba. Thank you, Garth.
Thank you. You're welcome, Joe.